The Ford F-150 has been America's best-selling truck for over 4 decades, but not every engine Ford bolted under that hood deserves your trust. Some of these power plants will run for 300,000 miles without breaking a sweat. Others will drain your bank account before you hit 100,000. I've been wrenching on Fords for 15 years, and I have seen which engines make owners smile and which ones make them cry. Today we're breaking down the 3 worst and the 4 best F-150 engines you can actually buy. Number 2 on the worst list has generated more class action lawsuits than some owners realize. The number 1 best engine is so bulletproof that used truck buyers are paying a premium just to get one. Let's get into it. Starting with the worst, and this one is going to upset some people, but the truth needs to be said. The 5.4-liter Triton V8, specifically the 3-valve version, found in 2004 through 2010 F-150 trucks, is one of the most problematic engines Ford ever produced. Now, before the hate mail starts flowing, I want to be clear. The 2-valve 5.4 from the late 1990s and early 2000s was a decent engine. Not spectacular, but reliable enough. The 3-valve version is where Ford created a nightmare that still haunts the used truck market today. The biggest issue is the cam phaser system. Ford used variable cam timing on the 3-valve 5.4 to improve fuel economy and power delivery, but the cam phasers are oil pressure dependent and incredibly sensitive to oil quality and change intervals. When they start to fail, and they almost always do, you hear that distinctive rattling or knocking noise on cold starts that sounds like a diesel engine with a death wish. The noise might go away once the engine warms up, but the damage is already happening internally. Replacing cam phasers on a 3-valve 5.4 is not a simple job. You are looking at $2,500 to $4,500 at a shop because the entire front of the engine needs to come apart. Timing chains, guides, tensioners, and phasers all need replacement simultaneously because if one component is worn, the others are right behind it. But the cam phasers are not even the worst part. The 3-valve 5.4-liter is infamous for spark plug ejection and spark plug seizure problems. Ford used a 2-piece spark plug design that is prone to breaking during removal. The lower portion of the plug seizes in the cylinder head because of carbon buildup, and when a technician tries to remove it, the plug snaps in half, leaving the bottom section stuck in the head. Extracting a broken spark plug from a 3-valve 5.4-liter requires special tools and can cost $500 to $1,000 per cylinder if it goes wrong. I have personally spent entire days extracting broken plugs from these engines. Some shops will not even touch a 3-valve 5.4-liter spark plug job because the liability is too high. On earlier models of this engine, the spark plugs could actually blow out of the cylinder head entirely because the threads in the aluminum heads were too short to hold the plugs under combustion pressure. Ford issued a technical service bulletin and eventually redesigned the heads, but thousands of trucks were already on the road with the defective design. The exhaust manifold studs on the 3-valve 5.4-liter are another chronic failure point. These studs break due to heat cycling, causing exhaust leaks that create a ticking noise owners often mistake for a valve train problem. Replacing broken exhaust manifold studs requires drilling and extracting the broken pieces from the cylinder head, which adds labor cost and complexity to what should be routine maintenance. If you are shopping for a used F-150 and find one with the 3-valve 5.4-liter, my advice is to walk away unless the price reflects the engine's reputation. There are better options in the same model years, and the repair costs on a neglected 3-valve 5.4-liter can easily exceed the value of the truck. The second worst engine is the first-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost, found in 2011 through 2016 F-150s. Now hold on before you start typing angry comments. The EcoBoost platform eventually became one of Ford's best engine families, but the first generation had serious problems that cost owners thousands of dollars and tarnished the EcoBoost name for years. The most significant issue was timing chain stretch. The first-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost used timing chains that were prone to stretching prematurely, particularly on trucks that saw frequent towing or heavy-duty use. When the timing chain stretches, cam timing shifts, which triggers check engine lights, causes rough running, and can eventually lead to catastrophic engine damage if the chain jumps teeth. Timing chain replacement on a first-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost is a major repair, typically $2,000 to $3,500 because of the labor involved in accessing the chains on a twin-turbo V6. Condensation buildup in the intercooler was another well-documented problem. The charge air cooler on these early EcoBoost trucks would accumulate moisture, especially in humid climates or during certain driving conditions. When the driver hit the throttle hard, that accumulated water would get sucked into the engine along with the intake charge, causing a significant misfire and stumble. Ford eventually released an updated intercooler design and a technical service bulletin to address the issue, but many owners experienced the problem repeatedly before the fix was widely available. Carbon buildup on intake valves is a chronic issue with all direct injection engines, and the first-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost was no exception. Because fuel is injected directly into the combustion chamber rather than over the intake valves, there is no fuel washing over the valves to keep them clean. Over time, oil vapor from the PCV system coats the valves with hard carbon deposits that restrict airflow and cause rough idle, reduced power, and poor fuel economy. Cleaning carbon from intake valves requires either chemical treatment or walnut blasting, which costs $400 to $800 depending on the severity and method used. Turbocharger failures on first-generation EcoBoost trucks were also more common than Ford wanted to admit. Wastegate rattling was a widespread complaint caused by wear in the wastegate actuator linkage. While not always a reliability issue initially, the rattling noise annoyed owners and could eventually lead to boost control problems if left unaddressed. Some trucks experience complete turbo failure, requiring replacement at $1,500 to $2,500 per turbocharger, and the 3.5-liter EcoBoost has 2 turbochargers. The third worst engine, and this one surprises people, is the 4.6-liter 2-valve Triton V8, produced from 2004 to 2010. It gets a bad reputation, not because it is catastrophically unreliable like the 3-valve 5.4-liter, but because it is chronically underpowered for the platform and develops expensive problems as it ages. The 2-valve 4.6 produced around 248 horsepower in most configurations, which was barely adequate for a full-size truck even when these models were new. Towing capability was limited, acceleration was sluggish, and fuel economy was mediocre despite the modest power output. You got the fuel consumption of a V8 without the performance benefits that justify it. The timing chain system on the 4.6-liter 2-valve uses plastic chain guides and tensioners that deteriorate over time. As the guides wear, the chains develop slack, which causes a rattling noise on startup and can eventually lead to jump timing if the guides break completely. This is a known failure point on higher mileage 4.6-liter engines, and repair costs run $1,200 to $2,500 depending on the extent of the damage. Intake manifold cracking was another issue on certain model years of the 4.6-liter 2-valve, causing coolant leaks that could lead to overheating if not caught early. The plastic intake manifold develops cracks near the thermostat housing or at the coolant crossover, and replacement requires significant labor to access. Combined with the spark plug blowout issues shared with other Triton engines of this era, the 4.6-liter 2-valve ends up being an engine that gives you all the headaches of the Triton family without the power to justify dealing with them. Now let's talk about the engines that earned their reputation as legitimate workhorses, starting with the best. The number 4 best F-150 engine is the second-generation 2.7-liter EcoBoost, found in 2018 and newer F-150s. This engine surprises everyone who drives it. A twin-turbo V6 in a full-size truck sounds wrong on paper, but Ford engineered this thing to deliver where it matters. The second generation 2.7-liter produces 325 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, which is more torque than many naturally aspirated V8 engines from just a decade ago. It tows up to 8,500 pounds when properly equipped, which covers the vast majority of real-world towing needs for recreational and light commercial use. Fuel economy is where the 2.7 EcoBoost really separates itself from the pack. EPA ratings of 20 in the city and 26 on the highway are remarkable for a full-size truck, and real-world numbers tend to confirm those ratings when you are not towing. The engine uses a compacted graphite iron block, which is stronger and lighter than traditional cast iron, giving the 2.7 excellent durability without excessive weight. Ford addressed many of the first-generation EcoBoost problems in this engine. The timing chain system was redesigned for better longevity. The turbocharger design was improved with more robust wastegate actuators. And while carbon buildup on intake valves remains an inherent characteristic of direct injection, the second-generation 2.7 seems to accumulate deposits more slowly than the earlier 3.5 engines. The 2.7 pairs with the 10-speed automatic transmission, which is a joint development between Ford and General Motors. This transmission provides smooth shifts and keeps the engine in its optimal power band, maximizing both performance and efficiency. Maintenance costs on the 2.7 EcoBoost are reasonable as long as you follow Ford's recommended intervals and use quality synthetic oil. The engine is sensitive to oil quality because of the turbochargers and direct injection system, so cutting corners on oil changes is a bad idea. The number 3 best engine is the 5.0-liter Coyote V8 in the 2018 and newer F-150 trucks. The third-generation Coyote V8 is a naturally aspirated masterpiece. It delivers 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, and it has a reliability record that makes mechanics smile. This engine has no turbochargers to fail, no intercooler condensation problems, and no boost-related issues. It is a straightforward, high-revving V8 that does exactly what you expect it to do every single time you turn the key. The Coyote uses port injection and direct injection together, which is a significant advantage over pure direct injection engines. Port injectors spray fuel over the intake valves, which helps keep them clean and dramatically reduces carbon buildup. This dual injection system solves one of the biggest complaints about modern engines, while still delivering the efficiency benefits of direct injection. Towing capacity with the Coyote reaches 11,600 pounds when properly equipped, which exceeds what most owners ever need. The naturally aspirated design means power delivery is linear and predictable, and that makes towing feel more natural and controlled compared to turbocharged engines, where boost comes on suddenly. The Coyote V8 sounds fantastic, and that matters more than engineers want to admit. The exhaust note at full throttle is something that no turbocharged V6 can replicate. And for many truck owners, that visceral experience is part of why they bought a V8 in the first place. Fuel economy is the Coyote's weakness, rated at 17 miles per gallon city and 23 miles per gallon highway, which trails the EcoBoost engines by a meaningful margin. But many owners happily accept the trade-off because the Coyote's simplicity means lower long-term maintenance costs. No turbo replacements, no intercooler services, no wastegate repairs. The engine is mechanically simpler, which generally means fewer things that can go wrong over 200,000 miles of ownership. If you're finding this helpful, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you do not miss the top 2 best engines. Your support helps other Ford owners find this information before they make an expensive mistake. The number 2 best F-150 engine is the second-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost found in 2017 and newer F-150 models, including the Raptor. Ford took every lesson learned from the problematic first-generation 3.5 and built one of the most capable truck engines on the market. The second-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost produces 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque in standard trim. In the Raptor, those numbers climb to 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet in the high-output version. Those are numbers that compete with dedicated performance vehicles, not just other trucks. Ford redesigned the port and direct injection system for this generation, adding port injectors alongside the direct injectors to combat carbon buildup on intake valves. This dual injection approach keeps the valves cleaner and improves cold start performance while maintaining the efficiency benefits of direct injection. It was a critical improvement that addressed one of the biggest complaints about the first-generation engine. The timing chain system was strengthened with updated materials and revised tensioner designs, and while no timing chain lasts forever, the second-generation 3.5 shows significantly fewer premature failures than the first generation. The turbochargers were also redesigned with improved wastegate mechanisms that eliminated much of the rattling that plagued earlier trucks, improving overall reliability. Towing capability with the second-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost reaches 13,200 pounds when properly equipped, which is the highest towing capacity available in the F-150 lineup. The combination of massive low-end torque from the twin turbos and the intelligent 10-speed automatic transmission makes this engine feel effortless when pulling heavy loads. The 10-speed transmission keeps the engine in its power band during towing, providing responsive downshifts on grades and smooth power delivery that reduces driver fatigue on long hauls. Fuel economy is rated at 18 miles per gallon in the city and 25 miles per gallon on the highway, which is impressive for an engine producing nearly 500 pound-feet of torque. Real-world fuel economy while towing is where the EcoBoost really differentiates itself. The turbochargers only produce boost when needed, so light throttle cruising allows the engine to operate efficiently, underload the turbo's spool, and deliver the torque needed to maintain speed without the engine straining. The second-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost does require attention to maintenance. Synthetic oil changes at the proper intervals are non-negotiable. The turbochargers and direct injection system rely on clean oil for longevity, and extending oil change intervals beyond Ford's recommendation is gambling with expensive components. Spark plug replacement intervals should be followed precisely because fouled or worn plugs in a turbocharged engine cause more problems than in a naturally aspirated motor. And the #1 best F-150 engine, the one that mechanics universally respect and used truck buyers specifically seek out, is the 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 with the TIV-CT system, found in 2011 through 2014 F-150s, and the closely related 3.3-liter V6 found in 2018 and newer base model F-150s. This might seem like a strange pick for the top spot, but hear me out, because this choice is all about real-world ownership costs and long-term reliability. The naturally aspirated 3.5 and its successor, the 3.3, are the simplest, most trouble-free engines in the modern F-150 lineup. No turbochargers, no intercoolers, no high-pressure direct injection systems on the earlier 3.5, and port injection that keeps intake valves clean. These engines use proven technology executed extremely well. The 3.5 produced around 282 horsepower and 253 pound-feet of torque, while the newer 3.3 makes 290 horsepower and 265 pound-feet. Neither engine is going to win drag races or pull the heaviest trailers, but they provide adequate power for the majority of F-150 use cases: commuting, light towing under 7,000 pounds, hauling typical cargo loads, and daily driving. Where these engines dominate is long-term reliability. Without turbochargers, there are no turbo bearing failures, no wastegate issues, no intercooler condensation problems, and no boost-related stress on internal components. Without direct injection as the primary fuel delivery method, carbon buildup on intake valves is minimal. The engines run cleaner internally over extended periods. Maintenance costs are rock bottom compared to EcoBoost engines. Standard conventional or synthetic blend oil works fine. Spark plug changes are straightforward without the complexity of working around turbo plumbing. There are no expensive turbo-related components to inspect or replace. The timing chain systems on these naturally aspirated V6 engines are robust and rarely cause problems within normal ownership periods. The transmissions paired with these engines, whether the 6-speed in the earlier trucks or the 10-speed in newer models, experience less stress because the engines produce their power without the sudden torque spikes that turbocharged engines can create. This generally translates to longer transmission life. Fuel economy with the naturally aspirated V6 is competitive with the EcoBoost engines in real-world driving, which surprises many people. While the EPA numbers favor the EcoBoost, real-world mixed driving often shows the gap narrowing significantly because EcoBoost engines consume more fuel than their ratings suggest when driven aggressively or in stop-and-go traffic. Used truck buyers have caught on to this reality. Clean F-150s with the naturally aspirated V6 command strong resale values because buyers know what they are getting: a simple, reliable engine that does not come with a long list of potential expensive repairs. Insurance companies and fleet operators prefer these engines for the same reason. The cost of ownership over 150,000 to 250,000 miles is significantly lower than any turbocharged engine in the lineup. The naturally aspirated V6 is not the most exciting engine. It does not produce the most power, it does not tow the most weight, and it does not have the performance credentials that enthusiast magazines write about. But it starts every morning without complaint, it does not develop expensive problems at 80,000 miles, and it does not require premium maintenance to stay healthy. For the average F-150 owner who uses their truck as daily transportation with occasional towing and hauling, this is the engine that delivers the lowest total cost of ownership and the fewest trips to the repair shop. Choosing the right F-150 engine depends entirely on how you use your truck. If you tow heavy loads regularly, the second-generation 3.5 EcoBoost is the clear winner. If you want V8 character with strong reliability, the Coyote 5.0 is outstanding. If you want the most trouble-free ownership experience with reasonable capability, the naturally aspirated V6 is the smart money choice. If you are shopping used, avoiding the 3-valve 5.4, the first-generation 3.5 EcoBoost, and the underpowered 4.6 2-valve will save you from inheriting someone else's expensive problems. If this helped you make a smarter buying decision, subscribe and hit that bell so you do not miss future videos where we break down exactly what Ford does not want you to know. Drop a comment telling me which F-150 engine you own and what your experience has been. Share this with anyone shopping for an F-150 because this information could save them thousands. I will see you in the next one.